I'm Ellen Schumer, Executive Director of COFI, Community Organizing and Family Issues.
My name is Nadiah Mohajir, and I am founder and executive director of Heart Women and Girls.
My name is Janice Lopez. I'm managing director of entrepreneurial services and director of the Women's Business Center.
My name is Iris Krieg. I'm one of the co-founders of the Chicago Foundation for Women. I was the first chair, a fact of which I'm very proud.
Hi, my name is Etosha Ottey, and I'm the founder of Chicago Black Women in Tech. I started Chicago Black Women in Tech out of necessity, out of my own experiences. I don't want to be barred from any opportunity because of something arbitrary like my gender or my race. So in high school, I guess kind of a nerd, I liked physics a lot and I liked calculus. I worked at NASA. I was one of a few Black women there. So I think all women kind of sometimes go through like a professional isolation, especially if you're the only person in the office. The fact that you could do everything right and you can work really hard and still have to spend energy overcoming really silly biases, or some organizations aren't as progressive as they should be or as welcoming as they should be. That was really kind of like put the fire in my belly, where we need to change the way things are, and I don't think it's going to come from waiting on other people to do it. It has to come from the people who feel like they're being disenfranchised. We are encouraging women to overcome any fear or self-doubt that they may have, and to show them that they are just as good and probably more talented than they think. What we're really offering is community that's built on mutual respect, people working together as equals.
COFI is a 22-year-old nonprofit that I started with other women organizers and activists, whose mission is to empower and build the voice and power of low-income women of color as leaders in all levels of civic life. The decisions about what needs to change, the strategies that are going to be used to make that change happen, the creating the tools and the resources for the social change work has to be led by the people who are most affected. So the very first workshop is a visioning session about what would this community really look like and feel like if it was really supportive of my family and supportive of me. So it starts with that beginning to return some sense of hope, and then create some, help people build some tools around a plan to move change in their own lives, in their families, and in their communities. Over the 22 years of working with women, we've trained about 4,000 parents. Creation of COFI actually grew out of a Chicago Foundation for Women funded women's leadership initiative. A lot of the motivation for actually thinking about women in particular as leaders came out of my own personal experience, which was my mother had been the one who brought values and sort of vision to our lives. She'd been, the cheerleader behind the scenes and the one who built all kinds of networks with other families and other moms. And when she passed, there were hundreds of people that came to the funeral and came to me and kept saying what a difference she had made in their lives. And I realized that there's this leadership work that doesn't get called leadership work, but really is very powerful. Mothers in communities have been actually coming together and fighting for their children and their families, going back centuries, going back probably to the history, all history of humanity. Those voices are the ones that the governor needs to hear. Those are voices that the mayor and the city council need to hear. I'm hopeful, and a lot of the core of our work is building hope. It's so important. But it's not ever been harder. I mean, this has been the hardest year. I think women are ready to fight back, and we see it in the Women's March, we see it in the Me Too movement, and I see it every day in the women that we're organizing with and the Power Pack leaders across the state.
So Heart Women and Girls is a nonprofit that promotes sexual health and sexual violence awareness in Muslim communities through health education, advocacy, research, and training. We believe that all women and girls can and do make informed choices about their health when they are provided with accurate information and systems that foster real choice. The story of Heart is actually many stories in one. The story of Heart is of a mom who was going to be lead parent but still wanting to do something meaningful with the public health background that she had. It's the story of a Muslim woman who was not seeing herself or her peers being represented in reproductive justice and anti-sexual assault spaces. And it's actually the story of multiple women from literally across the globe that were kind of on the same journey and came together under the umbrella of Heart to build collective power and expand that work. In 2014, a brave young woman came forward with allegations of sexual assault against a prominent imam. Heart was one of the few organizations that stepped forward to publicly support her, and within 48 hours we received dozens and dozens of more phone calls of survivors of the same imam. So we, as an organization, went into crisis intervention mode and supported the survivors that came forward and connected them to the resources and the community support systems that they needed. So one of the biggest barriers that exist in Muslim communities to health information is the lack of access to culturally sensitive health information. A lot of the shame and stigma that is associated with these topics leaves them at risk for not being able to identify when common medical issues occur or when they are in an abusive situation. That's sort of what sparked the interest in founding Heart, was to just build a space where women felt that they were seen and that women's needs were met in terms of some of the questions that they had about their bodies and how it reconciles with their faith and cultural identities.
So I primarily work with startup and emerging businesses. I provide counseling and training to help them either start or grow their businesses. You know, as a daughter of an entrepreneur and just being surrounded by those individuals, I mean, it's something that's near and dear to my heart. My dad immigrated here when he was 18 from Mexico. So I've seen what it really means to come to this country, work, to be able to achieve that American dream. Both of my grandmothers go into entrepreneurship and see what the challenges that they face. So I really have seen firsthand what it has done in terms of getting them out of poverty and making a better life for their family. Our founders believed that it was going to take a long time to break the glass ceiling. So they looked at entrepreneurship as a viable option for women in order to become self-sufficient and empower them to go ahead and help their families and businesses grow. For one instance, there was a lady that started her business out of her home, single mom, just trying to make ends meet. She started out of her apartment. By starting this business and by providing her the tools that she needed to launch, she was then later able to go ahead and buy the building. So she was able to grow her business from taking care of 8 children to 16 children, and then later buying a commercial storefront to open up her daycare center. So then she was able to hire women from the community. She was able to put her children through college, and she's operating a successful business. We're kind of the cheerleaders of these entrepreneurs and helping them build that self-confidence that they can do this and move forward to go ahead and establish viable businesses. With having an organization like a Women's Business Development Center, it's for women, by women, so then just working with them and seeing how they can work through their business plan or their financial situation or strategic plan is something that has kept me there. I remember my first client and just knowing that was in 2002, knowing that she's still in business, knowing that she's been able to accomplish so much. So that would be my greatest accomplishment.
At the beginning, when I was the first chair, things were quite a bit different than they are today. There were almost no women heading any foundations at all. And almost no funder at all took women's issues seriously. We were really clear that women's issues were community issues, people's issues, human issues. It's just very exciting. It was also exciting being a pioneer, that there were so few other women's foundations when we started this. We really didn't have a lot of really good models. We had to create things and make things up. We wanted every woman to feel like this was a foundation for her. So I actually didn't have very much money when I grew up, and so I was never a person of real means. And so that, I think that also informed how I felt about the foundation and why I thought that there should be a place for everybody, because people like me who didn't have a significant means but had the passion for it and wanted to give what we could give, there should be a place for that as well. Giving money brings all kinds of other benefits that are empowering. And when you give to something that's important to you, and you then get to have some control over how that, what happens in those particular issues. I'm happiest to see that the organizing principles that we had at the very beginning still live within the foundation, being a place where we should be looking for equity for all women, for fairness for all women, where we should take stands against violence against women, and its ability to focus resources where it's needed. Also, the ability of the foundation to have an overview of the whole community, of all the needs that they are, and then to bring leadership, intelligence, thoughtfulness to working on those issues and making a difference. It's different than if I took $1 in my pocket and sent it to an organization. It doesn't have the power of the joint money, leadership, and intelligence that the Foundation for Women can bring. The Foundation does those things so beautifully, and I feel so proud of the Foundation for that and for then the leadership that it has achieved in our community.